Breaking tonight, the talent flow just reversed direction. America didn't just lose workers, they accelerated an exodus. For 60 years, everyone knew the pattern. Canada's best minds graduated, looked south, and disappeared into American institutions. Our universities trained them. Silicon Valley hired them. Wall Street recruited them. The medical schools we funded watched their graduates accept offers from Boston hospitals and New York research centers. The brain drain wasn't a problem to solve, it was a fact to accept. Until December 2025, when everything changed. Tensions are rising across North America tonight. The United States implemented immigration restrictions designed to protect American jobs, but instead of strengthening their workforce, Washington triggered the largest professional talent migration in Canadian history. And the architects of Canada's response weren't reacting desperately, they were executing a plan that had been ready for exactly this moment. Everyone believed America's immigration crackdown would force global talent back to their home countries. Financial analysts expected H-1B workers to return to India and China. University administrators assumed researchers would abandon North American institutions entirely. Business leaders predicted a talent shortage that would cripple innovation across the continent. They were all utterly incorrect. Ottawa, December 10th, 2025. Standing before reporters, Canada's Minister of Industry made a statement that sent shockwaves through American research institutions. As other countries constrain academic freedoms and undermine cutting-edge research, Canada is investing in and doubling down on science. We're committing $1.2 billion over 12 years to attract the world's brightest minds. Translation: Ottawa just told Washington that Canadian competitiveness is non-negotiable. And what happened next? The country that prepared infrastructure, streamlined immigration pathways, and respected academic freedom reveals exactly why Canadian institutions are winning the global talent war while American advantages collapse. Dear viewers, between September and December 2025, something extraordinary happened in the North American labor markets. Washington pushed too hard, Ottawa said yes to everyone and Washington rejected, and Canada, strategic, patient Canada, became the destination every skilled professional started calling first. This isn't just about one immigration policy failure. This is about the fundamental shift in continental power dynamics and the rise of Canadian institutions as the preferred alternative to American chaos. Let me show you the mechanics of how this happened, because the pattern wasn't subtle. September 2025. The Trump administration announces a $100,000 one-time fee for H-1B visas. The stated goal is protecting American workers. The actual effect is catastrophic for American competitiveness. Tech companies calculating costs. Hospital administrators reviewing budgets. University departments watching their recruitment pipelines evaporate overnight. But while Washington celebrated restrictive policy, Ottawa activated something they've been building quietly for months. November 2025. Canada launches a new immigration pathway specifically for H-1B visa holders. Not a general program, not a standard process. A fast-track system designed explicitly to convert American visa holders into Canadian permanent residents. The message couldn't be clearer. If America doesn't want you, we do. The response was immediate. Software engineers in Seattle making calls to Toronto. Researchers at MIT exploring positions in Montreal. Doctors in rural Iowa, North Dakota, West Virginia, states that overwhelmingly voted for Trump, suddenly facing a choice. Stay in America where your visa costs your employer $100,000, and your future is uncertain. Or move to Canada where immigration is streamlined and your skills are valued. And here's what makes this devastating for American regions. The Washington Post documented it precisely. These legal workers fill crucial gaps in rural and underserved regions. Iowa, North Dakota, and West Virginia lead the nation with the highest percentage of physicians who hold H-1B visas. Translation: Trump's core supporters just lost their doctors because Trump's immigration policy made it impossible for hospitals to afford keeping them. December 2025. Canada's immigration minister announces an additional pathway. 5,000 foreign doctors currently working in Canada will receive fast-tracked permanent residency. Provinces and territories can nominate physicians. The federal government processes applications immediately. Notice what's happening. Canada isn't just accepting refugees from American policy failures. Canada is systematically targeting the exact professionals American institutions need most desperately and cannot afford to lose. The $1.2 billion research recruitment initiative isn't charity. It's strategic investment in the exact moment when American research funding faces cuts, when academic freedom faces political pressure, when the world's best scientists are asking themselves whether American institutions remain the best choice. And while all this unfolds, watch how Canadian leadership frames the opportunity. Lana Payne, president of Unifor, Canada's largest labor union, makes a statement that reveals the confidence shift happening in Canadian negotiations. As Canada approaches the 2026 review of COSMA, Payne says something that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. Rushing into a trade deal at any cost is absolutely the most terrible approach to negotiations. Canada has leverage in these talks. We need to play hardball and let the self-inflicted wounds of tariffs create pressure in the United States instead. Read that again. Canada's largest labor leader, representing workers who traditionally feared American economic pressure, is now advocating that Canada hold firm and watch American policies create American problems. The psychology shift is seismic. For decades, Canadian negotiators operated from a position of perceived weakness. We needed American access more than they needed ours. We had to accept American terms. We couldn't risk American retaliation. That era is finished. December 2025. Prime Minister Mark Carney sits for an interview with Rosemary Barton. Watch how he frames Canada's position. He doesn't minimize the American relationship. He contextualizes it. The biggest challenge we're ready for as a government, and absolutely as a country, is not letting the U.S. situation, which is serious, and we're going to work hard on, crowd everything else out. We can't let it become everything. Focus on what we can control. Focus on building here at home. Translation: America is one relationship among many, and Canadian success doesn't depend on American approval. Then Carney does something that reveals the comprehensive strategy. He pivots immediately to the opportunities Washington is ignoring: hydroelectric investment, small modular nuclear reactors, defense capabilities, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. These aren't random sectors. These are the exact industries where American leadership is fragmenting, where global investment is searching for stable alternatives, where Canada has genuine advantages and the political will to execute. The contrast couldn't be starker. While one administration obsesses over pipelines, as if energy infrastructure exists in a vacuum, another administration sees the complete picture: renewable energy, nuclear innovation, technology sovereignty, defense independence. These are connected strategies, not isolated projects. And here's what American outlets are finally noticing. A U.S. news reporter named Veli covers the story. Not Canadian media celebrating their own success. American media documenting American failure. For years, Canada has suffered from a brain drain of top talent, leaving to work at companies, hospitals, and universities in the United States. But as the Trump administration cracks down on immigration and guts research funding, the brain drain may now be hitting the United States. Let that sink in. American journalists are warning American audiences that the talent flow reversed. The reporter continues. Canada wants to scoop up all those talented workers from America. 20 states are suing the Trump administration over the H-1B fee. The tech industry is panicking. Healthcare systems in Trump-supporting states are losing physicians they cannot replace. This is what happens when policy ignores consequences. When immigration restriction sounds tough but destroys the systems that depend on global talent. When protecting jobs theoretically eliminates jobs practically. Canada didn't create this crisis. Canada prepared for this opportunity. The $1.2 billion wasn't an emergency response. The H-1B pathway wasn't improvised. The healthcare fast track wasn't reactive. These were coordinated strategies designed for exactly the moment when American policy would inevitably overreach and create openings for competitors. And while Canada welcomes researchers, doctors, engineers, and entrepreneurs, the strategic value compounds exponentially. Every scientist who chooses a Canadian institution over an American one brings not just their expertise, but their networks, their research connections, their future innovations. Every doctor who accepts permanent residency in Canada fills not just one position, but trains the next generation in Canadian medical schools. Every entrepreneur who builds their company in Toronto or Vancouver creates not just one business, but an entire ecosystem of suppliers, partners, and employees. The multiplier effect is what American policymakers failed to calculate. You don't just lose one visa holder. You lose everything that person would have built, everyone they would have taught, every innovation they would have sparked. Canada gains all of it. Dear viewers, if you're watching this and wondering what this means for Canada's position heading into the 2026 customer review, here's the reality. Every professional who chooses Canada over America strengthens Canadian institutions, weakens American leverage, and proves that Canadian policy competence is competitive advantage. When Lana Payne says Canada should play hardball, she's not being reckless. She's recognizing that Canada holds cards Washington assumed would always favor American interests. When Mark Carney says focus on what we can control, he's not avoiding the American relationship. He's refusing to let American chaos dictate Canadian priorities. The brain drain reversal isn't just good news. It's evidence that the fundamental assumptions governing North American relationships no longer apply. For 60 years, talented Canadians looked south and saw better opportunities. Now talented Americans look north and see better stability. For 60 years, Canadian negotiators worried about American retaliation. Now, American industries worry about Canadian alternatives. For 60 years, Washington assumed Canadian dependence was permanent. Now, Ottawa demonstrates that independence was always an option if leadership chose to pursue it. This is the Canada that emerges when policymakers stop apologizing for Canadian advantages and start leveraging them strategically, when immigration systems designed for competitiveness actually attract the world's best, when research investment targets the exact moment when competitors are cutting funding, when trade negotiators recognize that leverage comes from strength, not from accommodation. If you found this analysis valuable, if you want to understand how these talent shifts reshape North American power dynamics, if you believe Canada's strategic competence deserves more attention than it receives, this channel provides that analysis daily. The subscribe button is there if you want to continue this conversation. But whether you subscribe or not, here's what matters. The brain drain reversal happening right now isn't temporary, it's structural. American immigration policy isn't becoming more welcoming. Canadian institutions aren't becoming less competitive. The gap is widening, and every day it widens. Canada's position strengthens. Welcome to the new North American reality, where Canadian opportunities attract global talent and American restrictions accelerate Canadian advantages. Transparency disclaimer. The analysis presented in this video represents the creator's interpretation of publicly available data, government announcements, media reports, and policy statements. Viewers are encouraged to research these topics independently and form their own conclusions. 5 high CTR YouTube titles. 1. Shock value, U.S. brain drain accelerates. 1.2b Canada recruitment crushes American immigration chaos. 2. Curiosity gap. What American hospitals just lost that Canada gained forever? Doctors are moving north. 3. Contradiction, breaking, Canada wins talent war. Everyone said America would dominate. 4. Emotional appeal. 60 years of brain drain. Reversed how Canada finally became the destination. 5. Data-driven, 5,000 doctors, 100K visa fees, 1.2b investment, the numbers behind Canada's talent victory, SEO description. Canada's historic brain drain just reversed. Breaking analysis of how the Trump administration's $100,000 H-1B visa fee triggered the largest professional talent migration in North American history, and why Canada's $1.2 billion research recruitment initiative, fast-track immigration pathways for doctors and skilled workers, and strategic policy competence are winning the global talent war while American institutions face crisis. Explore the mechanics of Canada's response. The November 2024 H-1B pathway launch, December 2024's 5,000 doctor permanent residency program, Minister of Industry's 1.2b commitment to research excellence, and how 20 U.S. states are suing the Trump administration over policies that are devastating rural healthcare systems in Iowa, North Dakota, and West Virginia. Featuring analysis of Unifor President Lana Payne's strategic trade negotiation stance, Prime Minister Mark Carney's comprehensive approach to Canadian competitiveness through hydroelectric investment, small modular nuclear reactors, AI, cybersecurity, and defense capabilities, and U.S. media coverage documenting America's talent exodus to Canadian institutions. This isn't temporary talent movement, it's structural shift in North American power dynamics as immigration policy chaos meets Canadian institutional strength, and global professionals choose stability over uncertainty.